Welcome back to the UTEC podcast. This is Michael Inuma, HR at UTEC. We're excited to continue our conversation with Quang from Eureka Robotics and Kiran Mysore, the venture capitalist from UTEC. In this half, we'll cover how Quang and Kiran first met, the journey of expanding Eureka's business into Japan, their recent financing efforts, and their outlook on the future of the robotics industry. So there's so much to explore. By the way, what does the Eureka name of the Eureka came from?
So Eureka is the shout of Archimedes, who is the ancient Greek philosopher and polymath. He was taking a bath, and then this idea came to him, a fantastic idea. So he forgot that he was taking a bath. He was jumping out. He ran naked into the street and shouting "Eureka, Eureka," which means "I found it."
In Greek.
In Greek.
In Greek.
So then this term Eureka later became the synonym of discovery, scientific discovery.
Wow, I see.
So we found that it's a nice name for a company who's aiming at discover new things and new technologies.
Nice.
So let's talk about it. So around 2020-ish is when we were reintroduced. Of course, you had heard of UTEC when you were helping Mujin back in the day. And I had heard of your lab, at least, especially for your IKEA chair related activities. So we were reintroduced to each other at around 2020, I believe, by one of your angel investors named Nalin Advani. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah.
So initially, what made you get interested in UTEC or in Japan specifically? Because you had potential opportunities to raise fundraising from other parts as well.
For us, we knew from day one that Singapore is a good place to start, but we cannot stay in Singapore forever for both finding customers and investors. And the main reason is the Singapore market, at the end of the day, is still very small. It's the population is about 6 million people here, and the manufacturing, while very advanced, doesn't have the size to scale a big company. So that's the reason why we have always been thinking about, okay, what should be our next target market? And in that respect, Japan came as a very compelling target market for several reasons. First of all, Japan actually has the second highest number of robots deployed every year. Number one by far is China, but number two is Japan. And then only after that
more than the US,
more than in the United States. And secondly, Japan has a very high degree of, I would say, like robotics literacy. Like everybody in the manufacturing is familiar with robotics, and even like the acceptance in the population of robotics. Even we can say that Japanese people might even like robotics more than the number of anime like Doraemon, Astro Boys around robotics is huge.
And so there's a need as well, right? With labor
and then
shortage.
there's a big need because Japan population is aging very quickly, and there's a very big need to automate industrial tasks as a possible, a way to counter aging population.
Exactly.
Right. Secondly, the other important point is we have good connection in Japan. I mentioned previously University of Tokyo, Denso. So it was very natural, at least for me, to explore Japan as the market. And of course, to enter a new market, we want to have as much support as possible. So that's why UTEC, first of all, UTEC is based in Japan, and it's a extremely reputable deep tech investment firm. And we have very good references about robotics before. So when we were introduced to Kiran, we had a very good first conversation. It became extremely clear for us at a very early stage of the conversation that we wanted to partner with UTEC.
So there's a question for Kiran that why UTEC or yourself get excited about Eureka?
Yeah, we were looking at, when we look at robotics, right, there is the body of the robot, which is a hardware. There is a brain of the robot, which is intelligence or controller, and there is the eye of the robot, which is camera or computer vision.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of course, the body of the robot or hardware itself, there are amazing legacy companies, ABB, Fanuc, Yashikawa, several of them Japanese as well, Kawasaki. So we were looking for scalable solutions in the other part. So around that time, 2020 is the time, then it was a pre-generative AI era, but it was still the deep learning era, due to which the camera or the eye of the robot, the computer vision started doing, the technology started maturing very fast. There were a lot of startups and technologies doing that, but that itself is not enough. So our hypothesis was, is there any technique which combines the brain of the robot, which is the intelligence using physics-based robotics models, and combine it with the eye of the robot, which is the deep learning? And Eureka seemed to match the combination of sort of the old and the new. So that was one thing which got us very excited about Eureka. So it took us about 2020 end is when we first met. We discussed for more than a year, and towards the end of 2021 is when we seriously started having conversations about the round, right?
So it took about a year to get the first investment?
It took about, maybe the initial conversations were, Quang can remember, maybe we had kept in touch once in a while, but from towards the end of 2020 is when we started serious discussions. And then maybe since 2022, since we invested, maybe every day there is some conversation or a message or something, maybe.
Of course, yeah.
So in the last few years, so the growth of the company has been great for the last 2 years. So we led sort of a pre-Series A investment in you, about 4.25 million in the last 2 years. So you've cracked key customers, evolved the business model, built the team. Can you talk us about this journey? You have your first $1 million client as well. What has been some of the hard things to do in these 2 years?
So when we started in our home market of Singapore, our business model was to build a full robotic solution with the robot arm, with the camera, with the full cell, and put our software there. I mean, we are a software company, but and we are making software to control robots. But when you start as a company, it's very hard for anybody to believe you on a piece of software. They want to see the robot working in the
proof,
factory.
Right?
They want the proof, and especially in robotics, it's very important to see the robot, bringing value. So that's why we are forced to, to start by building the full machine, and then deliver the full machine to the factory, ramping up the machine, and let it, deliver continuous value to our customers. I said we forced to, but actually also liked it because at the end of the day, also the reason why we started this company is also to see our robots delivering value, in the physical world, helping our customers automate their tasks. So by doing that, we gain a lot of industrial experience. We gain a lot of deployment experience. So by today, all our robots have deployed more than 25 million operations in the factory shop floor, on the factory shop floor. And so that's a very strong.
And you're the first company in the high accuracy, high agility space to have over 20 million real world operations in this space.
That's right. So this has been extremely important for us, to ramp up our industrial capability. So that's what we used to do back in Singapore. But when thinking about entering a new market and how to scale the company, we knew that of course we can make more machines, making more full systems for our customers, and maybe eventually become profitable. But it's not the way that you can scale to 10 million and then $100 million revenue in a few years' time, because building one machine takes a very long time, and also the gross margin is not comparable to software. So that prompted us to explore the business model of, instead of selling the full machine, we want to sell the Eureka controller, which is basically just selling the brain. And we let other people, we work with other people, system integrators, partnering company, to build the body. And we focus our business model on selling this brain, the Eureka controller, and working with our partners to make sure that they can use that brain to build the whole body and then deliver the full system to their own customers.
Yeah, that is what you call brain inside the body, Eureka Inside, inspired
Eureka
from the
Inside.
Intel Inside strategy. So today, we'll talk about your Japanese entry as well, but who are some of the US and Singaporean customers you're working with? Can you tell us about that?
Our major customers in Singapore are actually either US or Japan national companies with production
Southeast
in
Asia
Singapore.
manufacturing base. Yeah.
Right. So, for example, one of our biggest customers is Pratt and Whitney, which is a aircraft engine manufacturer from the United States, and they have in Singapore they have a large business in repair and maintenance of their own engines, and basically this is a task that require high agility because the parts coming from an old engine are always different because of wear and tear, and at the same time, so it's a high agility part. And at the same time, because those are very tightly controlled aircraft parts, they need high accuracy to do all sorts of processes on those parts. So it's a very, it's a textbook application in some sense about technology.
And with Pratt and Whitney, you've been able to scale not just in Singapore, but also the headquarters, which is US, which is quite important to scale the company, right?
Absolutely. So our so far we have had successes scaling abroad thanks to our customers. So basically, we have been expanding inside Pratt & Whitney Singapore. And then when Pratt & Whitney US saw what we are doing for Pratt & Whitney Singapore, they said, hey, why don't you, build the same robots for us? And then this is how we managed to acquire, our initial customers in the United States. And the same story goes for Sumitomo Bakelite. We started delivering a number of machines to Sumitomo Bakelite Singapore, and now we are working with
expanding to Japan
office to deliver the same systems.
So about 1.5 years back, we've been discussing about your Japan office since the time we invested, or even before that. But about I believe in early 2023 is when you made your decision to actually set up an office in Japan. Now you have a 5-6 member team in Japan. How has been your experience of expanding Eureka's technology and products to Japan? Who are the key clients that you work with?
For Japan market, even though we started the office, in January of 2023, we have been talking with and exploring partnerships and finding customers, I would say, since the start of the company. As I mentioned previously in the first episode, we have been in touch with Denso. And Denso eventually became one of our first customers in Japan, even before we started the office. But then after UTEC investment, with UTEC introduction, but also through our personal connections, we started to have a lot of interesting conversations with potential customers like Sigma Koki, Shotoku, a number of manufacturers in Japan. And once we have secured a number of initial customers and we have a clarity about our strategy, our go-to-market strategy in Japan, then we started the office, and then we have been all in since January of 2023. So now it's about almost about 2 years, building the team, scaling operations, acquiring customers, and delivering to our customers.
And today you have clients such as Bridgestone, Denso, of course, even Toyota. So it's very rare for a global startup to penetrate the heart of the Japan's automotive industry as well, right? How are you able to convince Bridgestone and Toyota to start using your products and technology?
So what we realize, right, in Japan is Japan has an awesome product mindset and product capability, making new products. What in Japan is called monozukuri, literally making things. And just think about the Walkman. Just think about the PlayStation. Those are like the that illustrate this Japanese mindset to make awesome products. And so that's the product mindset, very important. Second thing is the strength in hardware. I think is top in the world in terms of making fantastic, well-finished, functional hardware. But where we believe that Japan is a bit lacking is the software capabilities. And indeed, at Eureka, our strength is in the software. So
software-enabled hardware, right? Software-enabled hardware.
So that's why we found that there's a very good match between what we offer and our strengths and what Japanese companies offer and their strengths. And that's how we have extremely deep partnerships with not only like the big players like Toyota, Bridgestone, or Denso, or Sumitomo, or Mitsui, Fudosan, etc. So of course, we are very proud of that. But at the same time, we have very strong and tight working relationship with medium-sized Japanese companies who are so good at manufacturing, so good at product, and where we can really bring our software technology and help bring those companies, to the next phase of their, their development.
One thing I really liked about Eureka's, which we didn't think of initially when they came to Japan, is revitalization of the slightly old family businesses in Japan. They work with companies like Shotoku, Maruka Furusato Corporation, and others who are transitioning to the next generation of leaders who are coming up. These are mid-sized companies. 100 years back, they were very big, but now they are sort of stagnating a bit. So Eureka is working with them so that they can capture the opportunity as well, which is very interesting. So revitalization of the mid-sized manufacturing companies in Japan, that is something that Eureka is doing as well, which is quite unique, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say they were stagnating. I think they have been doing very well. And I mean, those companies are, I think, profitable, doing well. And I think that fits the previous generation owner. But the new generations, I think they want to do more than that, right?
Correct.
So, for example, our partners, the current CEOs of Shotoku, for example, Hanada-san, he graduated from MIT, MBA in MIT. He came back and said, okay, how can I bring my family business, who's already successful, but how can I bring it to the next stage,
level?
Level, right? And for that, I think nowadays you need software, you need AI to bring like traditional manufacturing companies to that level. So we are very honored to have the trust of such companies here in Japan, and
very cool.
We are doing all our best, to support them in their journey.
Very nice. And you must have, though you have a team in, of course, Japan, but the headquarters is Singapore. How is the relationship between Singapore and Japan? We have several companies, global companies, UTEC portfolio as well, who expand to Japan. That's always one key difficulty to manage, right? So any thoughts on how did you manage the relationship between the Japan office and your headquarters as well?
I would say Japan has a particular business culture. I mean, it's the Japanese culture in general, and the business culture in particular is is quite unique, I would say. But in my particular case, I mean, I've always liked Japanese culture, and I spent 2.5 years before, back in the 2010s, in Japan. And I think this is something that helped me understand and appreciate the business culture in Japan. And I'm very glad to kind of to melt inside that Japanese culture. I have no problem. Of course, when I come back to Singapore and I go to US, it's the different me. So I think this is very important, and this is how I think we are able to gain the trust of our partners by carrying business in their way, in the sense that valuing a lot the trust relationship, really doing our best to deliver on time, on budget. Of course, not on when it's not on budget, we take that on our side. To make sure and to build this relationship, and we make a lot of effort, but we know that if we can keep this trust, is a business for the next 50 or 100 years. And of course, with our team in Japan, I think it's about the same. They have a lot of autonomy to carry the business in their way, but of course, we also try to drive new management methods, always in a consensual way. I would say. And
it's a mix of mix of alignment plus autonomy. So you just completed a very successful Series A fundraising led by global investors, B Capital and Airbus Ventures. Both, of course, were UTEC introductions, but it would not have been easy. So the business was going well, which means the fundamentals was good. But for fundraising, you require not just the fundamentals, but also the narrative. The story is quite important. So among the fundamental achievements that you made, what worked in convincing global venture capitalists like B Capital and Airbus Ventures, and also in terms of the story and narratives and positioning, what worked?
So, of course, I would say I would like to show appreciation here. It's not because we are on the UTEC show, but very honestly, I think we are so fortunate to partner with UTEC in general and Kiran in particular. I always say that Kiran is the person who understands our company second best after me. So I mean, he's so deep into helping us understand our business, and it's a very fortunate for us to have such supportive investors. And of course, the success of this round is also there's a lot owing to Kiran's work and UTEC's introduction. Now, I think of course, business fundamentals, as you say, is very important. Meaning, gross margin, revenue growth. A year ago, 1 year earlier, it was not so easy. We started first, how to say, approach to the market to see what's going on.
We started in end of 2023. We quickly paused and for 6 months, right, before re-engaging the investors.
Yeah. So we engaged with a few investors, to understand, okay, what are the milestones are we talking at that we are looking at? What are the numbers we have to hit? Of course, as a startup, idea is important, but at some stage you need to show
the fundamentals.
Revenue. You need to show fundamental revenue growth and margin, for example, typically. So 2023, it was not so easy for many startups, not just Eureka at the time. But then we took all the inputs, we regrouped, and we tried to work very hard on the business execution. And by the middle of 2024, our efforts started to bear fruits. So we started to sign large deals at a constant rate, and then one of the breakthrough was our first customer, first sales to the US. One of the biggest contract that we obtained was with a US customer. So that showed two things. First of all, that we are able to close large deals with, and second thing is there's a need for our technology, not only in Asia, but also in the US, which is a very important market.
So the timing and momentum is very important, and probably your story of the company also evolved. It's not just a company building the systems, but it's Eureka Inside, which can usually, you can scale and you can become a much bigger player, right?
Yes. Yeah. So that's the first thing, right? Revenue growth and signing big contract. But the other thing that Kiran just said is we started to show that our business model of selling the controller as Eureka Inside started really to get significant traction, in particular in Japan, when we were acquiring customers such as Bridgestone, Toyota, Mitsui Fudosan, who are Shotoku, who are really using our Eureka controller to build their own products, and then started to have traction with their own customers. So this is the second thing that show that our business model has traction and has real potential to become significant. So based on those two factors, basically, we're able to convince a number of prominent investors to continue to start the journey with us, and to support our growth.
Wow, those two factors come to the reality at almost at the same time, right?
That's right, around the middle of this year, 2024.
Nice.
Yeah, it was an intentional coincidence in some way. But so let's talk about the future of robotics industry. We are definitely in a generative AI era. Of course, there are foundation model companies, LLMs, large language models have attracted a lot of attention. How do you see robotics industry evolve with this technology? How does it impact Eureka? Any thoughts on that?
Before even going to LLM, I mean, the previous revolution was, deep learning models.
Deep learning era, yeah.
That was, that was a significant step for robotics to be able to have a much better understanding of the environment, right? And flexible understanding and the ability to learn based on new data and based on trial and error. So that was, before LLM, that was like the previous big breakthrough in robotics in terms of robotics intelligence. And now there's this generative AI and that also show a lot of potentiality. But what is common between those two breakthroughs is that without the physical understanding of actual physical systems, such breakthrough in the pure AI, I would say, will not have a lot of success into revolutionizing the manufacturing shop floor. For those technologies, deep learning, generative AI, to have real impact on the shop floor, there needs to be connection with the physical world. And Eureka Robotics, we are, from our research, our technology, our deployment, we believe we are in the best position to make the bridge between those breakthrough in AI and the physical world.
Yeah, the digital world and the physical world intersection. Right?
Yeah, and that connection is very, very important. It's not just learning there. It's a lot about fundamentals of robotics, like
Mhm.
kinematics, dynamics, motion planning, calibration. All of those, I would say, classical robotics concepts are super important to be able to bridge the gap between the AI and the physical world. And this is our strength.
What do you see Eureka being? You've been 4 or 5 years into the journey now, 3 or 4 years into the journey now. In the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, what is your vision for Eureka? What is Eureka's place in the world?
Right. So there are several things to that. First of all, as we still want to be at the forefront of research and development robotics. For example, in the past few months, we were one of the first companies to, if not the first, to roll into production the grasp anything, right? The method of grasp anything, like without any prior, more prior training, the robot is able to grasp any new objects with its fingers. So we demonstrate that in April this year, and we're one of the first companies to do that and even roll it into production. So we want to keep being at the forefront of the research in, I would say, physical AI. That's the first thing. And this will strengthen and keep our position in the future as a leading company. I mean, that's where we are working at. And of course, in terms of deployment, we have traction. We have good traction in Singapore, in Japan. We have initial customers in the US. So in the next few years, our energy will be focused on being a market leader in Japan and have a significant market share in the physical robotics for manufacturing in the US.
Yeah, in 5-10 years, if anyone asks, hey, how is your machines able to do, industrial machines able to do such intelligent tasks, you'll be like, well, Eureka Inside. That's why they are able to do
it. We want to be the reference for high accuracy, high agility tests.
Of course.
All over the world.
Yeah, okay. We're getting to the end of the episode. So maybe Quang, is there any final message from you to the audience?
Well, I would say it has been a very great journey so far. We have, starting, as I mentioned, I had no intention a few years ago, to become an entrepreneur or anything. We, little by little, this bug kind of caught up with me, and along the way, we have made a lot of fantastic connections. UTEC in particular, Kiran and UTEC and Kiran in particular, we have found customers, investors to support along the way, and we're gonna keep doing our best, putting all our energy to bring the latest research in robotics and AI to automate tasks and to help workers around the world. Yeah, ganbarimashou.
Great, ganbarimashou. Well, thank you so much, Quang, for sharing your journey, which was very inspiring. And we are very much looking forward to working with you in the future as well. You're coming back again to this podcast as well. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us for this two-part episode of the UTEC podcast with Quang from Eureka Robotics. We hope you enjoyed diving deep into Quang and Eureka Robotics' journey. We'll continue to bring you inspiring stories from innovative entrepreneurs in future episodes. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more exciting insights and behind-the-scenes journeys. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Kiran, as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you next time.